Hello, my name is Mubbina Hashmi and welcome to my YouTube channel, Truth is Here. I've launched a number of videos in the past few months onto the internet via YouTube just to make the public more aware of my situation, which spans some 18 years at least. Unfortunately, I've been the victim of organised persecution ensuing from the UK establishments, or more specifically from my professional regulating body, the Royal Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain, which used to be the profession's regulatory body, and previously one would have to be registered with them before one could practice as a pharmacist. Currently, the organisation has been replaced by the General Pharmaceutical Council, or the GPhC, and it's the GPhC now through whom one has to register in order to practice within the pharmacy profession. But the Royal Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain is still a sister organisation, and as such I'm still a member, so that allows me to receive my pharmaceutical journal when I pay a membership fee, and also gives me access to a few websites. Sorry, I just let you know I do have a dry cough, so please do bear with me if I crack up and if I break up every so often. It's one of the stress-related symptoms that I've unfortunately accumulated over the years. Okay, just to recap, as you've probably gathered by now, I've done a degree in pharmacy, which I did indeed at the London School of Pharmacy back in 1998. It's now known as the UCL School of Pharmacy, and I attained a B Pharm, which is equivalent to a BSc, obviously a science degree, and then after completing my degree, I was enabled to move on to the next stage of training, and that really entails just 1 year of training in a registered base, such as a chemist shop, or, as in my example, a hospital. So I ended up doing my pre-registration training in West Wales General Hospital, which is in Carmarthen, which is a rural area in Wales, further west of Swansea, and even further west of Cardiff, which is the capital of Wales, for those of you who are familiar with the Welsh landscape. So I went there in 1998, in about end of July, August, beginning of August 1998, and I've already done 1 or 2 videos outlining my pre-registration training year, which really forms a significant basis to these videos, as it was here I was at the receiving end of extremely bad treatment. So bad that I've never really recovered from it, and have been continuously harassed after completing my training there. That's going to be another series of videos, and I've already done 1 or 2, so I'm still working on those. But I have some way to go before I completely tell you everything and what happened there, and what it did to my life. Sorry. Prior to that, I had already had a few hints of what was to come in my training year from the university where I studied, and so it shouldn't have been too shocking what took place, but it was, to be honest, and I was really upset when things escalated in the way that they did, and even more upset when the Section 60 order was introduced in 2007, which is what this is all about. This video today is really about the Section 60 order, and you've probably scanned over the bit of paperwork that you can see on the video. You've probably read that it's known as the Pharmacist and Pharmacy Technicians Order 2007. It's known as a Section 60 order, And really it was that piece of legislation that was formalised back in 2007 January at the House of Lords, which really impacted my life and the lives of other people as well, one of whom is a close friend of mine within the profession and is currently not registered, I believe, as a pharmacist like myself because of the impact of the Section 60 order. So, sorry, I've sidetracked a bit, but I'll just go back to what I was saying. I mentioned the treatment that I received at West Wales General Hospital and how bad it was. It was so bad that I've said I'm going to be doing a video on it, a video series. Just to give you an idea of what took place, I was barred from pretty much everything. I was only allowed to have what is mandatory, absolutely mandatory, otherwise the training base, the pharmacy department at West Wales General Hospital would be disqualified and would not be allowed to have trainee students, and so they have to do signatures and here and there and get you to sign pieces of paper, allow you to come in and go home in the evening and do some dispensing, but that's not really what hospital pharmacy is about. And for those of you who know anything about hospital pharmacy, you'll know that there's a lot more to it, and trainees who go into hospital expect at the very least a timetable, which I wasn't allowed to have for 6 months, and I never really did receive one. So anything else would have been totally a luxury, but I wasn't even allowed to have the basic mandatory tools, which I think a timetable is mandatory, especially for a student who has high stakes exams to pass, is working full time, has to study as well, and certainly if you're dealing with the amount of harassment I was dealing with and intimidation and really frightening stuff. So one of which is, and I do need to mention that here, was the dissemination of my highly confidential and private medical notes deliberately into the workforce, into the work arena, by the most senior members of staff in the department, the chief pharmacist and his 2 principal pharmacists, one of whom was my tutor back then in 1998 and 9. This, I believe, was intentional and maliciously done with intent to harm, and I don't know how they pulled it off. Obviously somebody didn't like me very much and they didn't want me to pursue my career in pharmacy, because I've never really been able to, and I have incredible amounts of evidence, so it's not like I'm struggling to make my point. The problem is I can make it so well that I'm even more unpopular now, and so I've been quite unpopular for the last 2 decades, shall we say. Right, so here, just have a look at this piece of this article, which is written by Mr Graham Southall Edwards, who writes for the PDA and for the Pharmaceutical Journal as well. He's doubly qualified as a pharmacist and as a barrister. You can hear him speaking on another video that I've uploaded, and so you can see what's going on there, and you can hear references to my medical notes, and you can also learn more about him on the internet if you wish to. But for now, I'll just bring to your attention the fact that this barrister and pharmacist has actually been the key person who's written on the topic of the Section 60 order and its impact on members of the profession and indeed the profession itself. He's initially raised the alarms and called the legislation a sort of a machine that monitors people inappropriately. He's referred to it as the most venomous and potentially dangerous system regulating the profession that could ever have been imagined. But just you can see that's paragraph there. He's mentioned that presently only a select few who it seems were on a hit list of those that society knew about but could not do anything about. Right, you can read the rest of that as well. Trust me, this is not a theoretical hit list. It is very real, and the damages are incredibly real. And so don't think it's he's. I mean, it looks as though it might be figurative, but it isn't. And that hit list was in existence at least during my pre-registration training year, and people outside the hospital knew that I was being targeted in Wales. And not just myself, at least one of my friends, and the same lady I've mentioned before, a British, Pakistani, previously registered pharmacist who resides in London, was also being targeted alongside myself. At least I know this individual was, because she and I would talk on the phone and she would tell me what was happening to her. I, on my end, was very, very reserved about talking about my situation. It was that outrageous, and I just didn't know how to talk about it. But she already knew about it, so she's one person, and there were other people who knew also. And excuse me. So that hit list was very real and has proven to be very real. So that's that. So you can have a look at that, and if you want to find out more, you can. I'm just going to show you snippets from articles written by Mr Graham Southall Edwards. As you can see here, he talks in the top paragraph that he'd already warned the members of the profession that they needed to do something before this piece of legislation was passed. And he wrote an article in the pharmaceutical journal, the PJ, Stand and Be Counted. He goes on to explain that the manner in which the society investigates people is really something that has become the topic rather than the employer's action against the member or the pharmacist. And that is what I've been at the receiving end of. I have been at the receiving end of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain's misbehaviour, I would say, and their inappropriate mechanisms, which have jeopardised my life at least. They call these investigations, okay? These are investigations that they do of people that they take a fancy to within the profession. So I've also come across an article somewhere, which I haven't been able to pull off the internet yet, but I have read it in the past, which makes mention of members may be monitored for months, perhaps years, without any prior knowledge. And that is exactly what took place in my training year in Carmarthen. I knew I was being monitored, and I knew I was being treated very badly. I had somebody leave a bullying leaflet in my tray at work, more towards the end, just to kind of give me some support and some kind of direction as to what I could do. Again, look at this paragraph here, this one here, which mentions in 1999 the Section 60 of the Health Act 1999. It gives the society sweeping powers in respect of demanding and obtaining information about pharmacists who are on the register, and effectively affords them no privacy at all. Well, that is definitely true. My medical details were shared by all, and I was the last to know about it. And they've never openly and officially admitted to doing this. But this kind of thing does take place, and it can be proven that it has taken place. Going down the page, you can see that the society already has powers which in effect exceed those of the police. So that, what does that mean? It means that they can actually place the police under instruction. I have a very, very significant case with the police following this piece of legislation, where I was, as you can see from my other videos, I was resident in the Smethwick area in Birmingham back in 2007, and between 2007 and 10, and somebody attempted to break into my flat, my one-bed apartment, and the police turned everything into a, how shall I put it, they downsized everything I said and my evidence, and claimed that I had only been inviting somebody in for a drink, when in fact I did the very opposite. I hadn't invited anyone in for a cup of tea. And the video and the CD audio that belongs to the police actually proves this point, but they've refused to change it. The IPCC have refused to reprimand them. The Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO, also have taken little interest in reprimanding the West Midlands Police and asking them to stop lying, basically, about my details, which were then used to murder Joanna Yates in Bristol. Everything matches, all her details match that of my own, and so really we need to scrutinise this case and find out how on earth they get away with it. That's just one female who's been murdered, courtesy of the Section 60 order. So that's how they can manage the police as well. Somebody's mentioned, somebody from the PDA, Mr Southall, has mentioned the stress levels within the profession. I hope I'm proof of the stress levels within the profession, and that the reason of investigation, what does it say? Stress in the professional and professional and personal lives by reason of investigations. Well, I can confirm that the stress levels are abnormally high. I have chronic cough. I have Touch-of-Raynaud's syndrome. I have irritable bowel syndrome. I have anxiety, general anxiety, which is a lot better now. I'm not on any medication. Every now and then I need to take mebeverine, which is for my irritable bowel syndrome. And I've never taken any antipsychotics. I'm still fully self-caring. I exercise on a regular basis. And, I do general household chores. I've been working on and off when I'm allowed to. Unfortunately, the Section 60 interferes with my working life in a very, very significant way and is currently jeopardising my, how should I put it, my position where I'm signing on at the local job centre, and so I'm dealing with a work coach who plays extremely naive when it comes to the Section 60 order, says it's got nothing to do with him, and yet makes ad hoc comments which would allow one to realise that he does know what's going on, and he takes liberties, makes comments which make you realise that he's able to just say things which are untrue and get away with it. So that's another video I'm hoping to upload. I think it's necessary because I've been in a lot of danger and I've been blanked by the establishments. The job centre is in fact a subsidiary of the Department of Work and Pensions, and so they can really do something about it. So I've been forced to telephone and to make a complaint about my situation and just address the way I've been mistreated. I've had sanctions placed on me. Look, I'm not working as a pharmacist. I have to do something alternative whilst I'm preparing my application. But this kind of picking on and targeting isn't making my life easier, and it's certainly not helping my stress levels. So the Section 60 order is really making my life difficult, and I'm sure it's made other people's lives difficult. I know my friend in London is unbelievably mistreated and is totally very, very unhappy. It's jeopardised all aspects of her life, and so I dare say she would totally agree with me. Right, just at the bottom here it says that the heavy-fistedness with which the Royal Society refuses any form of discussion and any criticism, and Mr Graham Edwards has quite aptly commented that I wonder when they know that they may be removed from the register without notice and effectively on a whim. So he's saying that if somebody criticises them, that individual, such as myself, can be removed from the register, which is something they already did. And it's not surprising because I've exposed several murders which time very well with the Section 60 order and expose what the establishments, the Royal Society, the GPhC are really about, hand in hand with the NHS Trust members and the police. Right at the bottom it says, something which also adds to that. Finally, I wonder how long it will be before publicly opposing the society or merely criticising it is deemed to be misconduct, therefore effectively stifling protest. Well, I can't be stifled because the evidence is so strong and it's so scary that the global village needs to be informed, and really it's a responsibility on my shoulders, which I bear quite happily. I've totally taken it upon myself to have to do this set of videos. That I've already mentioned, I believe. Anything else that... Aha, yes, look at that. As 1st of April 2007, Section 60, Mr Graham Edwards quite accurately describes once again how the manner in which one receives the bundles, as I've received bundles from the society, telling me I'm now subject to scrutiny and I have to attend hearings, following on from the aftermath of my dismissal from Barnsley Hospital National Health Service Foundation Trust. I complained about racism, discrimination, which is still provable. Unfortunately, I was also a victim, or victimised rather, on the streets of Barnsley in terms of having verbal abuse, swearing, why don't you F off, you Paki, you Iraqi, snowballs were thrown at me, eggs were thrown at me. God knows how they managed that one. How on earth did anyone have eggs at hand to throw at me on the train station? But it did happen. And a lot more. In fact, every time I went out, something would happen. And I thought to myself, well, when it gets this bad, there's a slogan in Barnsley which goes something along the lines of, don't support it, report it. And so I made contact with South Yorkshire Police and told them about my plight, my situation. And for those of you who know, South Yorkshire Police have been in the media more than once, more recently because of the Cliff Richard case, and prior to that because of the Hillsborough disaster and their involvement there. So they're not exactly very well known for their high standards as a police department, and I can confirm that there is something wrong there. So I went to the police and told them about my situation, and they interviewed me, etc., etc. And I've got a video somewhere which I'm hoping to put on the internet as well. I'll show you that later on as well. So yeah, the bundle thing, how previous registrants receive these invitations to attend hearings from the society, or the GPhC as it is now, who have taken over the responsibility. It's like a Crown Court criminal indictment, and as he's added, and almost perceived as such by the recipient pharmacist. So my feeling or perceiving that I'm being picked on or I'm being treated very badly is not something unusual. Mr Graham Southall Edwards has himself admitted that that is how it makes people feel. I've been told I'm a paranoid schizophrenic because I've felt like this, which is impossible, both clinically and legally. They cannot say that, because I still go for jogs in the park. I resume not a stress-free life, but I do survive without any antipsychotics, and that is now for a record of how many years? 2007, 9 years. 9 years if you take it back to Barnsley Hospital, and 18 years if you take it back to Carmarthen Hospital, because they were also barking up the same tree. They were trying to get rid of me, as again Mr Edwards mentions that the society wishes to get rid of me, by labelling me with a very serious illness, as they have done with my friend, because she's a witness to my situation and was seen as a threat, because she was seen as a friend and somebody who might support me, and so they thought they'd just get rid of her as well. But going back to the perceptory issue, it is like that. It really is like that. You are made to feel like you've done something wrong. And what they do is they alternate between calling you a paranoid schizophrenic or simply a schizophrenic, and also trying to pin some kind of a crime on you, so that either way you're basically practically damned, and you don't stand a chance. So that's what really happened then. Sorry, somebody's at the door. 1 moment, please. Right, sorry. As I was saying, yes, so my experiencing extreme discomfort with the way in which the Royal Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain or the GPhC manage our cases is not something to do with the way I perceive the world. It is in fact very real that they treat people like that, and that is how you have to feel, because that's what they do to you. At the top there you can see that individuals like myself have suddenly found themselves embroiled in a complex legal process, the like of which they have never seen before. This is absolutely true, or ever dreamt of in their worst nightmares. That's what I was dealing with. I was told to leave, and I was also told that I'd have to be interviewed by the inspector at the society, and I also had a tribunal, 3 months time span in which to get in touch with the tribunal, and I had this also on my doorstep. So I had a lot to deal with. I was told I couldn't work, and or something along those lines, and I was also suffering already from stress, which they knew about, and they tried to turn that stress into into something far more serious, so they wouldn't have to address having contributed to my stress levels, which were rocket high, due to the way I'd been treated. There, let's see, just there, you can read the whole thing yourselves, but it's clear that this act is very, very detrimental to those who experience it, and it also touches on the finances and how it harms you financially. I've got no money because of this, and it's really destroyed my life, and the chap at the job centre is trying to put sanctions on me, so I can't even have travelling expenses paid. He's told me you can't work in a temporary job. If you get one, you must apply for a permanent job. He's realised he's given himself away there, and he's not legally supposed to say that to me. And so I'm sure somebody from the society or the police, because I get this sense that he's close to the police, will back him on that and try and cover him up. I've attended 2 meetings with his colleagues, one of whom is the manageress, a woman of ethnic background, since I complained over the phone about him. And she's watched him basically say things which are not true or not correct, and she hasn't commented on his behaviour or on his ability to say something that is factually correct. And so it's, once again, it's me having to defend myself whilst she's sitting there, almost chaperoning us, but she hasn't had the assertiveness to step in and tell him that he's wrong. I'm going to put those videos on the internet so you can see what I'm referring to. And in another meeting, following on from that meeting, the following time I came in, his other colleague, a white male, did the same thing and tried to show me that he was watching and observing my behaviour and my demeanour. And that was really what the issue was, when, again, his colleague, my work coach, did something, again, that he shouldn't have done, or he should have known better about. So they're doing it visibly in your face without giving you a chance to get fairness, or without them saying to him that that isn't right. So that's putting me in dangerous waters. I've just figured out quite recently that those videos, those graffiti on my garage, the dead word, the other word is actually my name jumbled up, Mubbina, dead, on the garage. And so I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable with the work coach from the job centre. I saw that coming, and he's been unnecessarily unfair, and I learnt from the job centre, or from the universal job telephone number, that he's not really supposed to do the things he's done. It's his discretion, and his discretion is working badly against me, which isn't surprising, given that the Section 60 order allows the society to pretty much intercept any interaction you have anywhere in the country, and I believe the world as well. So that's bodging up my life there as well. He's refused to acknowledge Section 60. I've printed it out for him. He's more interested in getting the details of my case because he probably realises he's not been fair with me. And so his disinterest in Section 60 really gives him away. He should be interested. That's kind of strange, I think. Just look at that. Under Section 60, yeah. I think that's enough. I think, yeah. Look at that paragraph there. Looking at some of this month's statutory committee inquiries, I can only see the plight of the pharmacist and his or her individual rights getting worse and being further eroded, respectively. Well, that's being fantastically illustrated at the job centre and by a number of other agencies, including the police. Wait till you see my police case and my other cases, and you will be shocked. And you'll be imagining, what on earth is this going on for? Why has it been allowed to carry on? I, from my end, can say that they are covering up some members within the profession who have behaved criminally, and that is what Section 60 really allows them to do. And it's really effectively a license to kill, and it should not be allowed to carry on. Interestingly, they've not allowed the Section 60 order to be debated. So when it was passed initially, it wasn't a law that left any scope for discussion and debate. So that's not surprising, because what followed, the deaths of several women at least, and the jeopardy and destruction of my life and my friends, that would explain why they put a stopper on discussion and debate. And I do believe that the Royal Society, now the GPhC, the General Pharmaceutical Council, have a lot to hide, and they do hide it rather clumsily, or should I say belligerently, because there is a very, very traceable trail which they don't want to discuss, and they prefer to refer you to psychiatry, even though they are now not legitimately able to do that. Nobody can be coping as well as I am with no antipsychotics for a record of at least 9 years, or 18 years if we're going to take it back to the first NHS Trust, West Wales General Hospital, who tried to imply and infer that I was suffering from schizophrenia, which, for those of you who don't know, is a degenerative condition, and people do not get better over time or even stay the same. So I'll leave you at that. Thank you for viewing and listening to me. I hope you will subscribe to my YouTube channel, Truth is Here, and try and understand the underlying message that I'm trying to impart to those of you out there, not just of those of you in the profession, but anyone out there in the world. So thank you very much for listening to me. Bye.